Hey guys, this is Coding Barista. Today we're gonna talk about async and await. We're gonna talk about what they are, those two keywords, and we're gonna look into actual live coding practice where we'll turn into promise chains into async and await, and you'll see the benefit of using async and await. According to MDN WebDoc, these are synthetic sugar on top of promises, making asynchronous code easier to write and read afterwards. They make async code look more like old school synchronous code, so they're worth learning. So basics of async await is so there's two parts. There's async, which you put in front of a function to declare this is asynchronous function, means that this will always invoke asynchronous code. So when you return from async functions right away, you're gonna get a promise instead of a value or object you get from regular functions. Async keywords ensure that this function always returns a promise. That's the key to using asynchronous, nothing more than that. And there's comes the counterpart, which is await keyword, which you put in front of the asynchronous function calls to denote that this is a promise that needs to get resolved, and when the waiting time is done, it's going to give you actual value from the promise. So it might not be so clear to just going over this documentation, but as we get to the actual coding exercise, it will make more sense. So let's jump right into that. Okay, so I have gone and created something called Weather app. It's a web app. Just takes two APIs from AccuWeather APIs. First one, it will get the locations API. AccuWeather API actually takes location key, which can be derived from like area, region, top city, or postal code, also known as a zip code. And then once you fetch the locations key, you can use that key to get the forecast API, or for this coding exercise, we're going to use current conditions API, which will return current condition based on the location key. So in this particular project, very simple React app. We have an app.js that renders weather component, and weather component has a state called weather data, and it also has two inputs. One of them is a text type input where user will enter zip code, and then we have a submit input, and we have a clear action input. Based on the data, we'll give you the current condition based on the zip code. To give you a quick demo, let's enter the zip code, and you'll see 42°F with cloudy. Pretty simple. I didn't spend too much time on this. So basically, every time you enter a zip code, it's gonna fetch the current weather condition for that particular zip code. Okay, and then inside, when the user press go after entering a zip code, it's gonna call first API, which is a postal code search. Right, we will get the data, which has a location key, and then using the location key, we'll call current condition API. And the current condition API will get two, and we're gonna extract two values from it. One is current temperature, and the other one is a condition as a text data. And then after that, finally, we're gonna set state call, update the state call weather data with temp and condition. If any of this promise chain, if any error is thrown, we'll just console log it. Clear button just resets the state by turning weather data to null and just clearing out the zip code input data. And in the render function, we'll only render the current condition if there is a data. And then weather display is pretty much straightforward. Weather display is functional component that just takes temp and conditions and just render this static data. As you can see in the weather, on form submit function, you can see that we call two APIs. First, we'll call the postal code API. Then wait for the promise to get resolved, get the location key, and call current condition one more time. As you can see, this code is creating this promise chain. We also call this, I think, Christmas tree, as you get more promise chain into the results. In this example, I'm only using 2 promise chains here, but you can tell as you have more promises going on, how it can be kind of hard to read and hard to follow which data belongs to which data. So in ES6, they introduced async and await. So our code looks like synchronous code, meaning there's no promise chains of then and catch, but rather await and async. So let's turn this onForm submit function into asynchronous code, and we'll see how simple this gets. And let's turn form submit into asynchronous function, and it will fetch the data. We'll wait for data using a await keyword. It'll be much cleaner to understand. So let's get started. So first, we don't need to return anymore. We will turn, and then we don't need all this then chains or wait for promise to get resolved. So I'm gonna comment from here, line 41 to line 64, and we're gonna turn this into asynchronous function by calling async keyword in front of event. And then now this Axios request will return location key data, and we're gonna put await in front of it now. So let's see what we get when we go call console log location key data. Let's save it, refresh the app. Let's go. As you can see, it actually got the data. So we are interested in the data and first object, and you can see in data is array of 5 elements, and we're going to get the first element, and we're going to get to extract the key from it. To get this particular down into the objects, I'm going to use something called get from low-get. So let's do get location key data from data, the first element dot key. Let's save it and let's try it again. Bam, there it goes. We now have location key. So let's assign this value to call location key by extracting this line into line 40, and we have location key as part of our data. Now, using this location key, we're gonna call the current condition API to get the current condition, current weather data. So same thing as before, we're gonna do const current condition data, call await Axios .get, and let's just copy and paste this data right here, location key. You still need params. This time you only need API key here, API key, and then let's console log this data as well. Let's save it, refresh the app. As you can see, now the data returned from current condition API has array of 1. The first element has a lot of data, but we are only interested in temperature right here, imperial, because we're in US. We're on a degree in Fahrenheit, so the value is actually the degree and the unit is Fahrenheit. And then we're also interested in weather text for zip code that we're providing is cloudy. So let's do same thing this time. Let's do get current condition data of data, first element dot temperature dot imperial dot value. Okay, let's save. Let's refresh the app again. Now 40 degrees. Awesome. Likewise for the weather text, you can do the same thing. We can do the same thing. So this time, let's assign them to a value. Call first one. I'm gonna call temperature temp. Call to value of here what we just printed out. Condition equal get current condition data the first element and weather text. Let's console log those two values, see if we're getting the correct data what we want. Delete this, save, refresh the app. 40 cloudy. Awesome, this is what we want. Finally, we want to set new state because we want our app to display the information that we gather from calling these two API, temp and condition. Reason I say temp and condition is because we have in our code, in weather display, expects temp and condition. Here we go. Let's remove all this. Save it. Let's run it. Go. As you can see, it says 40 degrees Fahrenheit with cloudy. And as I clear, no data. If we go here, this is a Mountain View zip code. It's 52 degree Fahrenheit with mostly clear. Awesome. This is what we want. Let's look at our code and compare with the previous code. All of our code is very nice and clean. It's in the structure. It's only one level, and as you can see, we don't have any like promise chain now because since we're using await and async keyword, and we're able to set this state when all of our requests are completed. Now, doing so, we have lots of a way to catch errors, right? Before, we always follow then and catch, so that whenever our request fails, we always catch clause. To get around with this issue or to handle the error issue, we can also put our code into try block. Let's move our code into try block. And then we can have a catch clause here. Catch error. So there we go. Now, if if any of our requests, if we ever see an error, or if there's ever an error happening, we'll catch it right here. So this is really awesome. This is really clean way, modern way to call chains of requests in a synchronous manner, but in behind the scene it is still asynchronous. I will also post this code sandbox link in the descriptions so you guys can check it out on your own time. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you find this useful. Until next time.